The Siege of Mandalore, the biggest untold story of the Clone Wars. Hello, I'm the Negotiator, and in this video I'll be telling you about this untold canon story that has yet to grace us with the amazing impact to the Star Wars world. So first of all, what is the Siege of Mandalore? Well, as I said earlier, it is an untold story from the Clone Wars. Back in the humble year of 2013, the Clone Wars 2008 CGI television show aired its final episode, which was called The Wrong Jedi, effectively giving an answer to his why we don't see Ahsoka Tano, the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, in Episode 3. The cancellation was due to Disney acquiring Lucasfilm in 2012, and as the Clone Wars showed on Cartoon Network at the time instead of a Disney-produced channel, it was only natural to expect the show to no longer air on said channel. But when it was announced that the show was officially cancelled, fans cried out in dismay. On March 10, 2014, Dave Filoni wrote an article thanking fans for the years of support on the show. With it, he included sketches he made for concepts and story ideas that were never finished. It's here that two images specifically caught my eye. In 2014, we got both the final season of the Clone Wars exclusive to Netflix as well as the Clone Wars Legacy, a multimedia project that aimed to release the unfinished stories of the Clone Wars in some form, whether it be a comic, novel, or unfinished episodes presented as story reels. These comics, as stated by Dave Filoni, happened and are considered canon. One fan asked former The Clone Wars writer Brent Friedman about the two images I found interesting before, asking if they are from the same arc, in which Brent replied that they in fact were. At Star Wars Celebration 2015 Anaheim, there was a panel called the Untold Clone Wars panel. It's all on YouTube, and if you haven't seen the panel, I highly recommend to check it out. It tells of many stories that Dave had planned, but obviously never got to show. While there is no mention of the Siege of Mandalore, there is talk about some Ahsoka arcs as well as a trooper helmet with Ahsoka markings on it, which Dave suspiciously didn't want to touch much upon. Then, in the Season 2 premiere of Star Wars Rebels, Clone Captain Rex appears and states,
Ahsoka Tano. I fought by her side from the Battle of Christophsis to the Siege of Mandalore.
At the mention to the Siege of Mandalore, fans immediately tried to search for answers. One fan asked Brent Friedman about the topic, and he said, it's a reference to the Clone Wars Lost series final, since that arc and last night's episode were both written by Matt Michnovetz. This was then confirmed by Matt himself as it was the Season 8 final. Matt is responsible for bringing us some of the best arcs of the Clone Wars, the Umbara arc and the Citadel arc. In the final for Season 2 of Rebels, Maul was introduced into the show, and his interaction with Ahsoka showed that there was in fact a history behind the two. With the idea that the final to the series would have included Rex, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan taking on Maul, how could any fan of the Clone Wars not be excited on it? Then, in Star Wars Celebration 2016 London, Filoni detailed what exactly the Siege of Mandalore would cover.
One of the final arcs, really the final arc of the series as proposed, would have reunited Ahsoka with the clone troopers with Anakin, so they would have seen each other one last time before the encounter in Rebels.
What happened was that Ahsoka was working with the Mandalorian Bo-Katan, because Ahsoka knew Satine, so she was working with Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan figures out when Maul is back on Mandalore, because Maul had been a shadow terrorizing them and still wielding control over them politically through Prime Minister Almec. They realize he's back on Mandalore and they have an opportunity to get him. And she knows that that's really important to Obi-Wan. If it's important to Obi-Wan, it's important to Anakin. So she and Bo-Katan contact the Jedi and say, we have this opportunity. We know where Maul is. We can get him. So she meets with Anakin and Obi-Wan in person. And they say, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to back you. And there's this great moment where they're kind of together, but then they get a call from Master Yoda, interrupts the whole plan, and he says, I need Skywalker and Kenobi back to Coruscant immediately. The city's been attacked and the Chancellor's been taken prisoner. So they have to go off on that mission, which is the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, and Ahsoka goes off the other direction. What happens is this nice long walk down the hallway where Anakin expresses how proud he is of Ahsoka and everything she's achieved, and even though she left, you know, he understands it to some degree. He's not completely happy about it still, but he gets it kind of worked out. What happens is that he says, I'm not going to leave you on this mission. I'm protected. And these hangar doors open up and reveals all these clones standing there from half the 501st. And they're all now wearing orange helmets and orange striped helmets like her. and Rex is there, and Anakin has given Rex's command unit to Ahsoka to go and attack Mandalore with Bo-Katan and take back the planet. And so that's why Rex also isn't in the movies.
And yeah, here she is leading the charge.
Look at all the clones. The clones have jetpacks. Mandalorians have jetpacks. Massive aerial battles. Dogs and cats living together. It was incredible. It was
This
really
is amazing.
I
was told she was hanging out.
Look
on
at that.
a
Look,
pony
you're
farm.
missing it. You're missing it. The force push.
Here we go. There
Maul
would
back.
have been a full-on confrontation, which is why when they face each other in Rebels, Maul absolutely knows.
That's
who
why he
Ahsoka
knows you.
is.
He calls you Lady Tano,
Yeah.
and he knows your story, running away again, da 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 da. You know.
Even though this particular story really only exists as story ideas, some loose scripts and things like that,
You're sharing it right now.
yeah, we still consider
not all of it.
we
though.
consider it to have happened, so that's how we inform
Yes.
the writing in Rebels,
Yeah.
because that's the history that these characters carry in their heads. So.
And that is the Siege of Mandalore. Under assumption, we can guess that this is also where clones would go on to attack Ahsoka due to Order 66. Filoni hinted at a possible story idea involving wolves, but even admitted that that idea was a bit out there. Either way, we know Order 66 did affect Ahsoka in some way that caused her to flee, and the effects following Order 66 will be shown in the new Ahsoka novel. But that leaves the question, will we ever get to see a full rendition of the Siege of Mandalore in some form? Let's look at our possibilities. Officially, the Clone Wars Legacy project could still continue. We could have another Ahsoka novel detailing the siege, or perhaps another comic like the Clone Wars comic Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. No, but what I think would be really amazing is if we got an anthology film on the Siege of Mandalore. Now, is that likely? No, not at all. The audience for the Clone Wars is small compared to the typical audience that goes out to see a Star Wars film. But if they made a straight-to-TV animation, maybe in the style of the Clone Wars, maybe not, I think that would be able to satisfy most fans of the property. Personally, this is my favorite of the untold stories that I've heard, and it's an integral part of the story of Ahsoka, and to all the fans of the Clone Wars, it brings closure. I've always understood why it was important to cancel the Clone Wars. But with the Clone Wars Legacy, I'd hope to see more of the stories than what we ended up getting. I think Siege of Mandalore, whether in a TV movie, novel, or comic series, is a story that needs to be told to bring closure to this amazing series that got a lot of fans, including myself, into the fandom. So I ask to all the fans of the Clone Wars to share this video. Let it be known to Dave Filoni, Pablo Hidalgo, and everyone at Lucasfilm that we care for this story. Don't demand it, because for all we know, this story is already in the works. But show that you love this untold story, and maybe one day we can all enjoy what is the Siege of Mandalore. I hope you've enjoyed. This is The Negotiator, signing off.